50 threshold. Oh, one moment, I think I need to do something, right? Okay. Actually, we're 57, good. So I see some familiar faces of people that we already met virtually, and I see also some other familiar faces from the files that we went over. So welcome, everybody. I am Jonathan Perk. I'm the residency director. And with me, it's on my left on my screen, I don't know, in your screen, is Sergio Angulo, who is waving to you, our one of our 3 chief residents. Sergio is actually a chief resident that is, his main work is on research and quality improvement. Although all chiefs wear all hats, but that's his main role. Sergio has a background in research, and actually before joining us did his PhD with one of our beloved faculty, Herman Moreno, who unfortunately last year passed away from disease. By the way, Herman Moreno himself was a former graduate of Downstate and has been with us for many years, a close friend of ours. Sergio completed his PhD with Herman and then decided to go back to the clinical world. And long story short, he's now running the show. So what we're going to do today, so first of all, thank you all for joining our open house. What we're going to do today is give you the best kind of picture that we can of the residency here at SUNY Downstate. Obviously, it would have been much preferred if you'd come here in person, see us. We could have you meet with our residents. We would wine you and dine you. There are a bunch of restaurants here that our chiefs like to take applicants, but unfortunately, life is such that we have to do it virtually. So we'll try to make the best of it. Before we start, what we're going to do now is we'll show a short clip, after which I will describe the program, and then I'll pass the torch to Sergio, who will add more information, more from the also the aspect of the residence view. And then we will open up the mic for questions where you can just freely ask questions. Also, you can text us questions in the chat, so we'll go over those. And then after that, I will log off and you will be able to continue asking questions to Sergio and residents who will join without me eavesdropping. So then you can have a free discussion and ask whatever you want, and you'll hear what's really going on in our program. So without further ado, Sergio, hit the video.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna set it up. I think there is something fell. Sorry, I just had some issues with my computer. If you give me 5 minutes, I will need to join with a different computer to do this. Sorry about it. Give me 1 second. I need to just add some technical issue. And sorry, just need to use switch the computer to in order to do that. 1 second.
So should I just start, or are you?
Yeah. Do you want to use some words while we just like switch to the different accounts? So we can.
Okay, so we're going to switch the order. You're going to watch the video afterwards. So let's just start. So I'd like to introduce you to our program. So I'd like to highlight a few things. Now that you've visited or virtually visited other programs, a lot of the information will make sense to you. So I'll start by saying that we are a fully accredited ACGME program. We are what is called a categorical program. All our spots are a categorical. Now, I'm pretty sure that by now you know the difference between the advanced and the categorical, but just in case, I know that when I was in your shoes, I didn't exactly know what the difference was, or even if I did, I didn't really know the importance of it. So I want to say a few words about that. So categorical means that we are a 4-year program, which means that you have a secured PGY position in our medicine department. Actually, you are part of the neurology department, but you rotate through medicine. This has a lot of advantages. First of all, the technical advantage that you match just once, you apply for the match just once, and you don't need to take care of a prelim year. Now, assuming you want to be in New York or in neurology, this is very valuable to have a position in the prelim year, because advanced programs around here in neurology depend on you finding a prelim year wherever you can find it. I can tell you that in the New York area, it's very difficult because there are many advanced programs in New York and in the area, and all of those are competing on just a few number of prelim positions. So this takes away the stress. You don't, so the worst case scenario even is that people have to find prelim positions in out of state and then come to New York. So this takes away this stress. So just for the mere technical aspect, I think this is very convenient. The other aspect is that you get to know us from day one. You get to know the hospitals, the centers that you'll spend your time later on when you are a neurology resident. So you'll know the system, you'll know the electronic medical records, you'll know the people, and importantly, you'll know the medicine residents because you're one of them. And so, you'll grow up with them. Those are the people that later on will send consults to you. You'll negotiate with them. You'll have all your interactions with them. So, you're not coming from the outside, you're coming from the inside. The other advantage is that the prelim year actually, in terms of ACGME requirements, they don't require that the whole year is medicine. They require actually just a portion of the year. And this allows us to take advantage of that and use the other months for our purposes. So the prelim residents are rotating from the prelim year in our services, so they get to know neurology actually from day one. as junior residents, as interns on the floors. They do it at Kings County, at Maimonides, and so forth. What we'll reintroduce also is 1 month of psychiatry during the prelim year. This we had in the far past, and then for a period of time, we had to push it back to the more advanced years. So for example, now our PGY4s are doing psychiatry, but actually traditionally it was part of PGY1, and it was a very good time to do the psychiatry month that is required by the ACGME. And the reason being because, it gives you kind of a breather within the kind of tough year of internal medicine to go to psychiatry and kind of clear your head a little bit. So aside from the neurology and in the future also psychiatry months that you'll do in the prelim year, another thing that you will do since you're here is that you may know that there's such a thing called continuity clinic. Continuity clinic is a requirement by the ACGME that every week you'll spend 1 session in the ambulatory services in the clinic. And since you are here, doing your prelim year here, instead of doing the continuity clinic with medicine, actually half a day a week, every week, you actually leave medicine and you come and join us to the neurology clinics that our residents do. So initially you just watch them, how they do it, but fairly quickly you'll get one patient, and later on another, and before you know it, you'll be part of the team. So you'll end up seeing neurology patients, which is what you signed up for. You'll get to know our residents, and you'll get to know our attendings in clinic. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Residents at prelim, the interns love coming to us. There are months that they're exempted, that they don't have to come because of the certain rotations that they're in. For example, if you're a night float or in the intensive care unit, there are certain situations where you're exempted and you don't have to come. But all the rest of the time, you do your clinic with us in neurology. So a lot of advantages to the categorical program. And even if you don't end up with us, my recommendation to you guys is to actually look at programs or other programs that you're looking at, see if they're categorical or advanced, and think of the pros and cons for you. In my mind, I think that there are a lot more pros for a categorical program. It used to be that about half of the positions, more or less, in the country were categorical versus advanced, but I think there's more and more categorical these days. Ours is a completely categorical program. In terms of the centers that our residents rotate through, so in the past we had 2 major sites. Now we have 3, which I'm going to talk about now. And then there are 2 additional short duration sites that our residents rotate through. So I'll start with the site here. I'm sitting now physically at SUNY Downstate. SUNY Downstate is the academic heart of the program. It belongs to the State University of New York, which is, as you know, a very large system with multiple medical schools. We are downstate, there's upstate, there is Stony Brook. So it's a very large system with multiple medical schools. So we are the one that is located in Brooklyn. SUNY Downstate Medical School is the only academic center in Brooklyn, which is in contrast to Manhattan, for example, which, there are probably half the number of people there compared to Brooklyn, but there are 6 times more academic centers there. 5 or 6, depends on how you count it, how they're merging or not, but it's around 6 times. Here, there are no other academic centers. Now, academic centers in Manhattan did buy some hospitals here in Brooklyn, but don't let that fool you. It doesn't mean that they have an academic presence here. It just means that they own the hospitals. So as far as academic medicine, we are the only ones. So that also means that we are the referral center for cases all around Brooklyn, especially since the population here, many of them are unable to go elsewhere. So they come to us, which I will touch on in a few moments, the advantages for us in those terms. So going back to SUNY, the academic, what does it mean to be an academic hub? It means we have the medical school here. So we have students who are eager to learn, and a large part of what you are going to do or what you're expected to do during your residency is to be involved in the teaching in the clinic, mainly the clinical teaching, but also in other positions as well. The other aspect is that we have a research building, the basic science building. Just to remind, that's where Sergio did his PhD. So many of our faculty have their basic labs there. They chase mice all day, and then when their time comes to be attendings, they put a white gown and they come and do rounds. So that's the basic science building. And then the third aspect of the center is the hospital. So the hospital that is part of this building is called University Hospital of Brooklyn, UHB, not to be confused with the Brooklyn Hospital, which is a different hospital, also in Brooklyn. Actually, even more confusing, it was a hospital that was associated with us, but no longer. It was bought by Mount Sinai. Our hospital here is called University Hospital of Brooklyn, which is basically SUNY downstate. That's how it's known here in the neighborhood. So this is a kind of a medium-sized hospital. It has all the services that neurology has to offer. A general neurology service, a stroke service. We have the epilepsy monitoring unit, and we have ambulatory care here. This is where we hold what's called the muscular dystrophy clinic. This is led by one of our beloved attendings, Dr. Yakov Anziska, one of our best attendings and most respected ones. He runs the muscular dystrophy clinic. So it's a clinic that not just covers muscular dystrophy, but it's supported by the Muscular Dystrophy Association. What's unique about this clinic is that it is the referral center for basically all complicated neuromuscular patients. So this is where Yakov does all the 21st, 22nd century type of medicine, gene-directed treatment that you may have heard or read in the news for spinal muscular atrophy, for Duchenne, and genetic testing for multiple other conditions. This is an absolute wonderful setting where Yakov and the residents see patients with the help of other disciplines all together as a team, with rehab, with pulmonology, with social work, physical therapy. So all together seeing patients and giving the best care possible to those patients. So this is one of the highlights in terms of clinics here at UHB, but obviously we have other clinics as well here. We have movement disorder and all, you name it, we have it here. That's basically the hospital here, UHB. So all of these buildings that I just mentioned, the hospital, the basic science building, and the medical school, they're all buildings but connected together. And this connection is actually very important because people just go back and forth. People get to know each other. Our residents do research. The students walk around. They interact with our attendings in the labs. They interact with our residents for teaching. We teach the first years here. So it's all kind of mixed together. The physical contact is really important. So this is kind of the academic heart of the program. Across the street, we have Kings County. That is a city-owned hospital. I would say that is the main clinical site of the program. Kings County is a very large, busy city-owned hospital. You may have heard of Bellevue and Jacobi, other hospitals in this system. It's a wonderful system owned by the city. It is a safety net type of system where we take care of patients regardless if they have insurance or don't have insurance, if they're documented or non-documented, it really doesn't matter. All patients get their care here. So this is an absolute mission to be part of this. Those patients have nowhere else to go. They have multiple challenges, both social, economic, but also medical. Very few of them have a primary doctor that is following them. And in many situations, you'll be the first neurologist or even, a doctor that will care for their presenting problem. So this is as opposed to, other centers, maybe a more privatized center where a patient will come in, they already have their own subspecialty neurologist that already made the diagnosis and asks you to take care of them. In this case, no, you are going to be the first person on earth to hear the story, to do the exam, to do the evaluation, to send the appropriate testing, to discuss the case with the attending, to implement your plan, and then to follow the patient throughout your stay here in the continuity clinics. This hands-on learning has two benefits. One is that you really do make a difference in the patient's lives. So that's point number one. Because if you don't do it and if you don't provide the best care, no one will. Point number two is that there is a benefit to you, because as opposed to being passive and seeing something that someone else told you, you are going to be the one that actually makes the ultimately the diagnosis and the treatment. So it's two different things to be told this patient has neuromyelitis optica versus to see a patient with gait ataxia, take the history, examine them, do the appropriate testing, and come up with a diagnosis of neuromyelitis optica. In terms of your own education, those patients will stick to your hard drive forever and ever. Now multiply it by the number of patients that you'll see in Kings County, which is a lot. What that means that in the end of the residency, you'll be very confident and capable and experienced. Now, this does require hard work. So if anybody here in the crowd shies away from hard work, this is not the program for you. Now, we have to differentiate between a program which asks you to work hard and a malignant program. Those are two different things. A program can have even a lower work volume, but you will suffer, versus a program like ours, which I hope, and you can ask our residents how they feel, you will work hard, but you feel that you're making a difference in people's lives, a true difference. And by the way, the patients know it, and you'll see it in their eyes. And on the other hand, hard work that you do under supervision, under guidance, under a situation where you always have help. And even though it is hard, and there are times that you will be hungry, you will be tired, you will be frustrated, you will be anxious, you always have someone there for you and watching your back and supportive in a non-judgmental way. So that is the value of Kings County. Now in Kings County, we have all our services there. Obviously, general neurology, stroke neurology. There's all the other services, so neurosurgery, neuro-ICU, epilepsy monitoring, and all the subspecialty clinics for ambulatory care. We actually have a rotation, which is that you guys go through. So that's in addition to the continuity clinic. There is a subspecialty ambulatory block. So every few weeks you'll be on that ambulatory block. And in that block, basically what you do is the days are divided into sessions. There's a morning session and an afternoon session. Each session is a different subspecialty. So for example, Monday morning, it will be multiple sclerosis and neuroimmunology session. In the afternoon, it will be screening clinic, so patients that are referred from the emergency room. Tuesday morning is movement disorder. Tuesday afternoon, famous MDA clinic that I talked about, and so forth and so forth. So during that week, you'll be able to sample multiple disciplines of the main, not all subtypes of neurology, but the main. So, you know, epilepsy, stroke, movement disorder, MS, general neurology, neuromuscular. So you'll have a taste. Now, this is important because getting a taste early on in your education is very important, because the decision that you're asked to make about your future, for example, in picking a fellowship, which I'm pretty sure most of you will, based on my experience, most of you will do, that has to happen very early on. In fact, in the first half of PGY3, which is, I think, super stupid, but no one asked me. I think it would have been much better if it would have been delayed in a year, and all programs, fellowships, and so forth would say, no, we're not looking at applicants before PGY4. And that will give you ample time to kind of sample what neurology has to offer. But as I said, no one asks me. It's done in PGY, at the beginning of PGY3. So we basically need to give you a taste of what the, you know, basic routes in neurology very early on. So really one of the tools is the subspecialty clinic, which is in addition, obviously, to your exposure in the inpatient, which is, you know, the nature of the beast is it's going to be largely stroke patients and epilepsy patients, you know, the basic kind of presentations of neurology. So that's Kings County. It's a busy hospital. It's a mission to take care of the patients there. They come with multiple challenges. And I always say the treatment doesn't end with you writing a prescription like maybe other places, because there may be a lot of barriers that you'll have to go through. So there's a support system, social work, case managers, people that you'll have to make friends with for them to help you, for you to be able to help your patients. So multiple challenges, sometimes language barriers, not sometimes, a lot of times language barriers. And so there are challenges, but I can't emphasize enough how satisfying and important the work that you do in that center. So I see it as true medicine, true mission, you know, going back to why many of us chose to go to medicine to begin with. So those were the two main sites for many, many years. And we used to run those sites with 28 residents, so 7 residents per year. But about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to also, well, it's for, there are many reasons for it, political among others, and also to make the healthcare system in Brooklyn more efficient. The decision was to have hospitals work together. So the decision was for us to join with Maimonides Medical Center. So basically, the neurology department in Maimonides Medical Center and the downstate neurology are one. It's not 2 departments that work together. It's one department, all under our chair, Dr. Rosenbaum, who is regional chair of the whole system. So our attending work in the variety of the centers. Each of us, you know, most of us work in more than one center. So I mentioned the Kings County, the UHB. So I, for example, work in UHB and Kings County. Other attendings work in other combinations like Kings County, Maimonides, or UHB, Maimonides, and so forth, or all 3. Epilepsy, for example, cover all 3. They read EEGs from all 3. So the point I'm trying to convey is that it's not a different, it's not that we're cooperating with another department. It is the department. It's part of the department. The faculty there have actually academic appointments from the university, and Dr. Rosenbaum has the power to fire and hire, mainly hire. So we expanded our program, our faculty with young, enthusiastic, excellent physicians, neurologists that are part of the system. So that was about 4 or 5 years ago. We planned to, so we got the approval from the ACGME. We planned the expansion, and we knew that it required more residents. And so we expanded from 7 to 11 residents per year. So for a total of 44. But we didn't want to do it all at once. We wanted to do it piecemeal. So every year, every PGY1, we added the complete cohort. And actually now, 4 years later, we're the first year that we were able to complete the 4 cohorts of 11 and finally get to our goal number. And during this time, we kind of learned the system, and slowly we took over the neurology care there. It's not like they didn't have neurology before, but it was run by neurology attendings with medicine residents. So there was never a neurology residency there. Just the patients were under medicine. So stroke patients were being taken care of nurse practitioners and medicine residents. Guided by neurology attendings. And that has all changed. Now the services are completely run by neurology residents and attendings. So we have the same structure as we have in all the other sites. We have general service, stroke service, ambulatory service. There's neurosurgery there, neuro-ICU, ambulatory I already mentioned. So basically everything. So the hospital itself, Maimonides, is about 20, 25 minutes away from us. It's still in Brooklyn, but different part from Brooklyn. So it has a little bit different flavor. That's the beauty of Brooklyn. It's like a very cosmopolitan neighborhood. I mean, it's multiple neighborhoods, borough, built of multiple neighborhoods with completely different ethnic buildup. And the number of languages here is enormous. So you just move a little bit and then you're kind of like in a different world. So the population that Maimonides takes care of is different. It's a little bit different setting. It's a little bit more affluent, a little bit more privatized. Not a whole lot. I mean, Brooklyn is not as rich as Manhattan. So even in the more affluent, it's still not the same standards, but a little bit less of the challenges you'll meet in the Kings County. But on the other hand, a little bit different flavor that is also important for you to know how to interact with primary doctors of patients who have their private caretakers and so forth. So that's a different art that you need to also learn, because in your future, you'll probably do everything. So you need to learn all of those. Maimonides is a very well-run hospital, very high standards. Our residents absolutely love going there. It is a true success story. The site director there is Nuri Jacoby, who is also an associate program director. He's also associate clerkship director, very interested in teaching, as well as he's the head of the wellness committee, very interested in resident wellness. So that committee is with other residents. So he is very mindful to the success of Maimonides and the well-being of our residents there, but also actually throughout the whole program. So Maimonides is a true success story. That is the third major site. In addition to that, we have 2 other rotations. that we send our residents at PGY2 and PGY3. The first one that I'll touch is in PGY2, a neuro-oncology rotation, a 1 month rotation. Sorry, just 1 second. Where our residents go to Memorial Sloan Kettering for 1 month in their PGY2, and they become fully credentialed. It's a little pain in the neck for you guys to do it, but this is something we insisted on. So instead of you being an observer, you're actually part of the team. You're fully credentialed there. So you join the consult service there, which is run by Cornell residents. And don't worry, they will take very good care of you because they like you, because you help them. So you just become part of the consult team. You'll see patients, you'll present them to the attending, and also you'll join all the academic activities that the Cornell residents do, their conferences and so forth. This has been a huge success. Memorial Sloan Kettering is one of the top neuro-oncology hospitals, not just in New York or in the country. It's actually a referral hospital from all over the world. You'll be exposed to the best neuro-oncologists that neuro-oncology has to offer, and you will learn a lot. I know I'm 100% sure of the success of this story because I can tell you I've been running the program 8 years now. I've interviewed people just like you, applicants who went through our program, and every year, and this is when it was 7 residents, every year one of them went to neuro-oncology. Several of them to Memorial Sloan Kettering to do their fellowship, others to other phenomenal places like Dana-Farber at Boston. And some of them even continued as attendings. So actually 3 attendings and staff in Memorial Sloan Kettering are graduates that I myself interviewed just like you. So if you think about it, 1 out of 7, that is not the percentage of neuro-oncologists in neurology. This means that this exposure is very successful. A lot of people go to neurology, don't even consider neuro-oncology as part of a subspecialty in neurology, and then they rotate through that rotation, and they see the light. So let me just connect the phone here. Sorry. So that was a success story. Built on that model, we a few years ago decided to send our residents to a neuro ICU rotation. This time it's a PGY3 rotation. Again, 1 month at Mount Sinai in Manhattan. The reason we chose Mount Sinai was kind of for historic reasons. You don't need to know the names, but there's a guy named Stefan Meyer, who was kind of the guru of neuro ICU, who ran the ICU at Columbia for many, many years, moved to Sinai. And we contacted him and asked him, based on their experience in Memorial Sloan Kettering, we asked him if he would like our residents, but they have to be fully credentialed. They'll be part of the team, blah, 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 all the stuff that I told you. He said, great, send them over. Win-win situation. Meanwhile, he left to Henry Ford in Chicago, but the neuro ICU remained top quality, so we continued sending our residents there. And by the way, since then, we opened other neuro ICUs here at home, but still our residents like going there. And every year I ask them, would you like us to continue sending you guys to neuro ICU at Mount Sinai? And overwhelmingly, the answer is yes. And if neuro-oncology is a success story, I can say that the neuro ICU is even 4 times bigger than that in terms of interest of our residents. In fact, for the past several years, neuro-oncology has been the most popular fellowship that our residents have asked to go to, aside from stroke. Neither of those are my cup of tea, but I truly respect it, and that's what people like doing these years. And also in the interview season, I hear from a lot of you guys that you're interested in those fields. So you will be exposed to the top of what NeuroICU care can offer. Sinai is a very busy hospital, but it's not just their own patients there. It's a referral center from all their system. Remember, I told you that Manhattan hospitals buy other hospitals. One of the reasons is that they become their referral center. So all the complicated cases end up in the mothership, and you will be there. The funny thing is that for many years, Sinai Neurology residency, they allowed their residents to go to the NeuroICU as an elective, so they weren't forced to go there. So for several years, the residents there in the NeuroICU were us. So it was run by our residents with nurse practitioners and PAs with their own attendings. In recent years, they kind of rethought that it doesn't really make sense for them to miss on the opportunity, and they started sending their own residents. It's not a problem for you guys. You'll get a lot of attention. You'll learn a lot. It really depends on how much you want to be involved. There are people who did a lot of procedures there. Some people less so because they were less interested. But in terms of education, you'll get a absolutely very good education and exposure. And as I said, many choose that as a career. So if you give them a good impression, I know that a lot of times they ask, their program director, their people there ask us, to give recommendations and people to go for fellowship there. And our residents either go there or go elsewhere to do fellowships in their ICU, and they get letters and so forth. So it's a win-win situation. So those are the main clinical sites that our residents go through. So the three major ones and the two more shorter ones. So let's talk a little bit about the program itself in terms of the training. In terms of the training, it's structured very similar to other programs that you've probably interviewed in, with the exception that being a categorical program. So everything starts from PGY1. So, as you go up in the food chain, you get more responsibility. You become from a state of being supervised to a supervisor yourself, depending on your year. So, as a PGY2, you supervise interns. As a PGY3, there are situations where you are the senior on the service. So for example, the services at UHB and University Hospital Brooklyn are run mostly by PGY3s, not at the beginning of the year, but a little bit more advanced. They're run by PGY3s, so they supervise the younger residents. And then when you're a PGY4, you're really senior in all the services. And for example, in Kings County, that's one of the most stressful and satisfying positions, is where you actually senior on the floor, the busy services. The residents at night call you first to present patients and discuss issues. The attending is always there and is always there for you. And there are situations where residents are asked to call directly the attending. So if it's a medical emergency, but most cases they actually run things by you as a PGY4. So this helps you, and you make the decision. So this helps you kind of grow up in terms of the transition from a trainee to an attending. Even though traditionally most people actually don't go to practice after finishing residency, they go to fellowship. I think probably 99% of people. But if you would like to go, you could, and you get the tools. So you get the clinical tools in terms of knowledge and experience, but also you get the tools in terms of decision making. And actually, one of the biggest challenges of a young attending is being the person who actually makes the decision. So I think that's what I hear from attendings who start kind of the career. And I remember it myself, being the person all of a sudden that instead of asking someone else, you have to make the decisions. So you have to practice that. You have to practice the responsibility. You have to practice kind of not just throwing on the table all the differential diagnoses, but actually deciding. So then as a PGY4, you actually get to do that. And then there are also fellows around that support, but in terms of kind of the hierarchy, this is of course the highest in the program. In terms of making sure that things go in the right direction, we have mentors that are assigned to each and every one of you. And again, I didn't mention it earlier, but this is another advantage of the categorical program. The mentors join you in PGY 1. So each of you is assigned a mentor that meets with you officially at least twice a year, but sometimes it's more, especially if you do projects together, if you do research together and so forth, or if there's other needs. But the bare minimum is twice a year. You meet officially, there's a checklist of things to go over, and actually they send a report that I go over. And that happens from PGY 1. So this is a huge advantage because we get to know you, you get to know us, and we follow you and we make sure that you go in the right direction from day one. That advisor, based on the year, goes over certain topics that are relative to that, that are relevant to that year. So in the PGY 1, it's more the adjustment to the system, but in PGY 3, it's more towards, all right, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And make sure that you collect all, that you get your letters. First of all, make the appropriate decision in terms of fellowship, that you collect all your letters. So that mentor helps you with all that. The mentor also helps you in terms of tackling or thinking about feedback that you've gotten. So during every rotation that you go through, after that, the attending of the service writes an evaluation. We use a system called New Innovations. You may have heard of it. It's an online system, so each of you has an electronic chart. And whenever you do go through a rotation, the attending gets a survey and they fill it on you. It goes through everything, your clinical judgment, your knowledge, and interaction with the nursing staff and so forth. And then there's also an open place for just free language. So you see it, but also in every 6 months, you go over all of those feedbacks, evaluations with your mentor. So for example, if there are issues, let's say, for example, medical knowledge is something that comes up. So that's something you'll tackle with the mentor. How do you improve your medical knowledge? Just as an example. Obviously, I go over all of those evaluations myself. Actually, each evaluation I sign at the bottom, so to make sure that I do go over. So, I go over hundreds and hundreds of evaluations. So I know what's going on also. And if there are issues, then I approach the resident and address them. If not, sometimes I approach the mentor to tell them, look, this is something to pay attention to with this resident, maybe give them a push in terms of, I keep saying medical knowledge could be an issue, and discuss with them what are the barriers and so forth. So it's all information that I go through, but there's 44 of you, there's one of me. So the mentors are a large part of making sure that you're going in the right track, so you don't fall between the cracks. So basically, we know everything that we need to know about you, whether you like it or not, which is a good thing, so you won't kind of wake up after 4 years, why didn't anybody tell me I needed to study? That's not going to happen, because there's multiple steps that, for example, in-service exam scores. So once a year, there's an in-service exam called a RITE. So, and you don't just get a score. The score is broken to subtopics. There's epilepsy questions, neuromuscular, and so forth. So you actually go over it in detail with your mentor. So then you can see where are the low-lying fruit, where are the things that you want to enhance your knowledge, and so forth. So we won't let you kind of fall by the wayside, and if there are issues, we'll address them throughout your residency. So that's kind of the formal way of evaluating, but also acting on the evaluations. Another aspect of the mentor is to make sure that you take part of scholarly work, which brings me to the topic of scholarly work. This is not very well defined by the ACGME, except that every resident is required to do some level of research. What counts as research really depends on the resident. Obviously, not everybody has the same level of interest or even knowledge and research, but there is kind of a basic requirement to be involved in some level of research. And so there are different opportunities, really depending on your enthusiasm. Some people are very active in terms of enthusiasm to pursue research projects, and the availability is to basic research, epidemiologic research, clinical research, and something that we've been putting a lot of effort in past several years is quality improvement type of research, which is actually the type that we encourage very much for a variety of reasons. One is the ACGME themselves are very interested in us pushing for quality improvement, and they actually count it as, and they made it sure that we understand that they count it as scholarly activity. So being involved in a quality improvement project counts as scholarly work. And it's important because that language of quality improvement knowledge is extremely important for you and for your career. And then there's another benefit. Those projects they're very structured. And we have people that have been doing it for several years, and they know how to guide residents through this process. One of them, for example, Dr. Susan Law, who is stroke attending in Kings County, actually the one who's the division head of stroke in Kings County. She has master's in public health, and she's been running the quality improvement projects in the department. So when you go to her, you go over immediately. She'll show you what is the project. You'll come with an idea, but immediately she'll go over with you what is the project, how you build it, in very practical terms. And it's very beneficial because those projects have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and also have a probability. I wouldn't say I don't want to promise anybody, but they have a probability of being accepted for publication. And publication is really the money, the currency, unfortunately, that we're valued in the academic world. When I write a letter of recommendation, I can write that the person is very nice, they're very knowledgeable, they have nice eyes, and so forth. But all this is very good. But the other person on the other side of the line wants to hear about the currency. What is a currency? The currency is the money. So what did they do? What did they publish? Those are objective things. So quality improvement is one of those that is kind of a little bit more newer kid on the block, but we take a lot, many of our residents do it. Actually, right now, I think Sergio is our guy that follows this, and there are Excel sheets with who's doing what, which I also look at to make sure everybody is doing something. I think the majority actually now are involved in various quality improvement projects, which is also very important for our patients, by the way. I should have mentioned that in the beginning, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, improve the quality of the service that we provide. So that is as far as scholarly work. We do encourage people to do so it's a requirement, but we also encourage people to do scholarly work. For example, if you get a project to be presented, let's say in the American Academy of Neurology, the department will give you a stipend of $500. In addition to the support that you get as, part of the, every resident gets support to go to a one-time national or international meeting. That's an addition. So every time you get a first author publication and to present your work, so let's say you have a poster that is accepted in the American Academy of Neurology for their poster session, you will get this stipend. If you do it every year, you'll get it every year. Okay? So that's kind of an incentive to push you forward. In terms of electives, I mentioned the exposure that you get in our ambulatory services, but there are people who are interested in seeing other things that we may not have here. So, for example, we have. So, let's say you're interested in private practice. So we have formal faculty that have private practices. So you can spend time with them in the elective. We have a couple in Manhattan, Dr. DeVee and Dr. Moskop. So that's actually a very good elective that people do. Moskop is a headache specialist. DeVee is she works on Alzheimer's, but also general neurology. So you spend a couple of weeks with him, a couple of weeks with her, and you get a taste of how it is to have a private practice, what kind of life it is, and good life, by the way, in many aspects. So you get that exposure. So that's just one example of something you can do as an elective. In terms of other electives, you really can choose whatever you want, including, as you kind of understand, it could be out of our hospital system, especially if it's something that we don't offer here. It's just a lot of paperwork, but if you do it in advance, there's actually a checklist that we have here with our coordinator. So you just do the paperwork, and I'm not going to limit you. If it's a worthwhile rotation, then we had people go to, I don't know, research. One of our former chief residents went for a month of research in Louis Pasteur in Paris. One of our former chief residents went to do a month in a very busy hospital in Korea. One did neuroimmunology in Boston, in Mass General. People go all over the place. There are limitations that are not set by me. For example, in terms of not insurance, the malpractice coverage that the hospital provides, it is limited to the state. So this is something you have to know. So if you want to go elsewhere, you'll have to cover that. And then there are other restrictions on people with a J1 visa. Those are not restrictions by me. Those are restrictions by the ACGME. If anybody is interested, you can look at the site. I'm actually not up to date on the limitations, but as far as I know, the ACGME limits training of J1 visa holders to the state of their training. But it may have been updated. So if that's relevant to you, you'll have to look at them. The limitations, again, are not going to come back from me. If it sounds to me like a reasonable elective, people have done a course in public health and statistics. If it seems reasonable to me, you'll get approval. Lying on the beach in the Bahamas with a cocktail, that is not going to be approved. But short of that, I think most other things will be approved. So that's as far as electives. In terms of fellowships, the proof is in the pudding. I can't say that I am promising anything, and I definitely don't want to sound like I'm promising anything, but all I can say is look at our record. If you look at our site, actually the site, they actually renewed it to a better system. It's completely disorganized now. We have to reorganize it. The site before that, a few months ago, was much better organized. So I hope you'll be able to find your kind of your bearings there. But if you do find, if you do a search neurology downstate residency, you'll eventually find us. Look at prior graduates where they went to in fellowships, and you'll see. Our residents go to the best places possible. As I mentioned already, neuro-oncology at Memorial, Dana-Farber, neuroimmunology at Mass General, headache at Duke, neuro-ICU at WashU, stroke at UCLA. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So you can see people have been doing very well. Programs know what our residents have gone through. They call me on the phone, the program director, fellowship directors, what do you think about so-and-so? What do you think about so-and-so? And they take our residents. So, you earn it. When you go through the 4 years here, you earn it. But again, no guarantee. I don't want to promise anything, but that's the history. In terms of board pass rate, we have a board pass rate of above 90%. Our residents do very well. They're in the top third of the in-service exam scores nationally. Some of them even the top fifth percentile, and we even had one that was in the top 1 percentile, even then. But generally, our residents are in the top third percentile in terms of the in-service exam. So academically, we make sure that you get a good education. There are many methods to do it, in not only in providing resources, but also buying you online resources like NeuroPrep, which is question banks, but also teaching modules, the NeuroICU. So the what's it called? I'm blocking now. The Intensive Care Society have teaching blocks that we buy each and every one of you. You go through those teaching blocks, and actually you do a test at the end, and you get certified to make sure that you went through all these modules. Subarachnoid hemorrhage, stroke, status epilepticus, and all those emergencies. So those are just to mention a few ways that we push you forward. We also buy you the Blumenfeld book, which is one of my favorite books in introductory books to neurology, which is called Neuroanatomy to Clinical Cases. So you get that as a present from us. So we make sure that you have a very good opportunities to study. And also, I'll be literally standing on your head, study, study, study. You'll see, whether you like it or not. You're going to study and you're going to know neurology. So fellowship directors know that, and future recruiters know that. You'll come here with a very solid, not only knowledge, but experience. And if, I'll just finish up by saying, if it's becoming a clinical neurologist, if that's your goal, then I feel very confident that you'll be provided with that, based on many dozens of people who I was involved in their education. So last thing that I want to mention that is actually the institution asked me to mention is the J1 visa, which applies, I guess, to some of you here. Those of you who are not citizens and require a visa, the institution requires me to tell you in this introductory presentation that the institution helps with J1 visa and J1 alone. So if that's an issue for you, just know that that's what the institution is doing. They require us to tell you that they're not going to support H visas or others. It's just a matter of money. And because the match is a binding agreement, I'm telling you this. They actually asked me to have you sign that you heard it from me. I'm not going to make you sign. You just heard it here. That's it. J1 visa, J1 alone. They don't want to pay for anything more. But you have to know what you're getting into. That's pretty much it. So what we're going to do now is, where's Sergio? Sergio, there you are. Do you have a short movie to show us before you take over?
Yeah, so I can show the video right now.
All right.
Hopefully this time is working.
And then Sergio will take over, and then questions.
So let me just show the video. Let me know if you can hear the sound.
I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your. Here, can you start over, Sergio?
Sure.
Start over and make sure we hear. First, would like to welcome you and thank you for your interest.
Is this not working?
Let me try again. Sorry about it.
It's working.
We'll give it a minute. First, would like to welcome you. Okay, Sergio, let's drop it. Drop it. Just so the video is available on our site. So if you just you remember what I told you earlier, just go to SUNY Downstate Neurology and the residency. You'll see the video. It just shows some images, but I think in the presentation that Sergio is going to show you, there's also some pictures. So you can watch it on your own. So it's just for the sake of time, and I think it's going to be better quality when you watch it on your own screen. Anyway, so Sergio, the microphone is yours.
Perfect. So now let me just actually do the presentation from the chiefs. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yep.
Very good. So first, at this in our program, we as Dr. Perk mentioned, we had the 3 sites. So we had 3 hospitals: Kings County, University Hospital Brooklyn, and Maimonides Medical Center. Our program, Dr. Perk already mentioned this, is categorical, includes the first year as an intern. This categorical year is mainly at Kings County Hospital and University Hospital of Brooklyn. There's also some training at the VA in Brooklyn, and this basically where the internal medicine is moving during this first year. There is about like 3 months that you're gonna be doing in neurology, and it's gonna be in our 3 sites, but the rest of the training is gonna be internal medicine. During this year, the program, basically you're gonna be managed by the Department of Internal Medicine, and you had interaction then with us while you're doing the neurology in these 3 months. But so far during this time, we're trying to make a little bit more like trying to know you better, trying to like include in our activities, and trying to do some social activities, so you don't feel like alone, like no having like a family during this time. So the idea is trying to you can know us, you can know some faculties, and then by the time you start the second year, you have like a knowledge of the department. During this actually first year, you are going to be doing clinics as well. And neurology, it's going to be once a week. It's going to be a continuity clinic. Once you continue doing the training during the second, third, and fourth year, you can do specialty clinics, meaning that you can do epilepsy clinic, you can do neuromuscular clinic in the different sites. We had the inpatient training in the 3 hospitals. And what is very important about our program is that the voice of the residents are here, that Dr. Perk and the chiefs and all the program directors, they are able to have the feedback to make changes in the program. So that's very important, because there are like many times that this feedback from the residents is important to make very important changes for the the well-being of the residents, for the improvement of the program. And I think that it can be different from other programs that you can be interviewing. And as Dr. Berg was mentioning, that like at the end product, the fellowship placement that we are receiving is very good. So our residents are going to very important places. And that's going to highlight this as one of the important part of our program.
Maybe you can maximize the slide.
Sure. Okay. So I was mentioning this as the categorical program. So the internal medicine, that's one of the largest. So we have the 3 sites, and you don't need to apply twice. The other part is that I was mentioning to you is that you had the opportunity to have like 3 months during this first year that you're going to be working in the neurology as an inpatient service, and also you're going to be doing the in continuity clinic. That's going to be once a week. So this time is very important that you get familiar with the other neurology residents, also with the attendings that are going to start to knowing you. And as you highlight this like training with us during the first year, it's easy the transition for the second year. So on top of this, we have dedicated 2 weeks before the PGY2 year. That is going to be the boot camp. This boot camp is trying to give like some basic training for you to start the second year. It's a transition that is not easy, but this boot camp provides like some tools for you to be able to have the adaptation. As well as you're starting the second year, we had something that's called a tax system. So basically, what we're trying to do is we had to pair one of you to someone that's more like senior. And the idea is that this person is going to teach you how to do things. Things as simple as a place and order, things as simple like how to manage a consult. But at the end of the day, that's something very valuable that gonna allow you to, like in a month, be able to be more independent. So this allows you like a transition from PGY2 that's gonna be more smooth. And that's something that we're trying to just provide more independence. By the time you are like already like 6 months into the PGY2, you are totally independent. We totally like trust you, and we can run like consoles, we can do anything. So that's the idea of this like transition. That's going to be smoothless, but also provide all of you easy transition to a more independent. So for the inpatient training, so we had in our 3 sites very dedicated stroke services with a stroke attendance. Very important. New York City has like it's a very like high density city, and like strokes in our city mainly basically locally patients that are not like coming by airport, it's basically coming by ambulance, and patients can come to any of these 3 sites. There are 2 sites that actually have neuro IR and neurosurgery available. That's basically Maimonides Medical Center in Kings County Hospital. In Kings County and Maimonides, they had a closed ICU system. We had actually one advantage as well, is that downstate operates an epilepsy monitoring unit. And over here, actually, they are reading the EEGs for the 3 sites. So we had very strong group of epilepsy that are doing this, and we can monitor any patient in the 3 sites. And we can do at this moment readings over the weekends, mainly during the day. There is one tool that is only available at Kings County Hospital that is called a Cerebell. And this is on the emergency basis. Basically, you're suspecting that the patient is on status epilepticus. You can place like a point of care device that can record if a patient has like status epilepticus, and you can call the neurocritical care attending to be able to read this, or the fellow if something happens, like for example, overnight, that if we don't have the technician available at the moment. For something I was commenting is before is a continuity clinic. The idea is that the residents are going to have patients that are going to follow up over the years, over the training. For this system, we had a hybrid system, meaning that we had a dedicated week that is coming every 4 to 6 weeks that you're going to be rotating through this clinic. And we have the continuity clinic. That is a dedicated day over the week that you had to go to the clinic. The idea of this is that you maybe provide, you had to follow up some patients on the regular basis. You can schedule patients to you. On the Continuity Clinic and Maimonides Medical Center, you have dedicated patients to you. They are scheduled to under your name, and the Kings County were working towards that direction. So you can follow the patients throughout their entire course of the disease during your training. And for the specialty clinics, we can offer different options at Kings County and Maimonides, as well as downstate. So we had the multiple sclerosis, movement disorders, epilepsies, neuromuscular movement disorders. We can also actually offer outpatient EMG. We had stroke, degenerative neurology, pediatric neurology, and headache. I also mentioned in Dr. Perk also, we had a supportive leadership. And it's very important that to mention this, and I want to emphasize Dr. Perk is very open to hear resident feedback, and not only to listen, to be able to do the changes. We have very different committees. Like one of them is, I think this is the strongest at the moment, is the Wellness Committee. And this idea is trying to just bring residents that have the interest to improve the residents' well-being, and for example, make activities like outdoors, indoors, or provide like celebrations. Everything at this time is limited by COVID, but that's the idea of the Wellness Committee, for example. The idea of the program, I think, is very important to emphasize that it provides a way to be more independent. It can be hard sometimes for some residents to be able to be more independent over time, but when you see at the end of your training, you're gonna see that residents are able to take decisions by their own. I think like by us as residents, we see this slow transition, but when you compare someone that's starting a PGY2 by someone that's in their PGY 4 year, you see like a huge difference. So I can see that like a difference between the residents during the training is I think like nobody sees the importance of have this difference over time, that we're more independent. And something that we want to remind everyone is like we just don't throw the residents like to the fire and just learn. There is always somebody to be like behind you in case you need help. If you are in the middle of the night, you can call and escalate up. Like if you want to call your senior resident, you can call your chief resident, or you can call the attendant. So you are not alone taking decisions. There is someone else that you can call. And this experience, like to the end, to the point of your training, you will be like having experience that is going to be a pre-attending to be able to supervise junior residents. You will be having the experience to be taking home calls, that a junior resident that is going to be presenting you cases overnight. And I think at the end, you're going to be in a setting that, like you, as Dr. Perk was mentioning, if you want to start being a neurohospitalist, you can go and take that path. In my year, there's one of my residents, co-resident, that's going to start doing that. I added this to this presentation is the scholar activity. Dr. Perk was mentioning this. So we had a clinical and basic science research. We had dedicated faculty that had active clinical research, and they are like in different fields. I just mentioned some of them, like stroke, epilepsy, neuromuscular, but they're in different fields. In addition to that, it's important to mention that SUNY Downstate is an academic center. And what I mean this is that this is not only a clinical part, it has also basic science scientists. And if you had the interest, you can approach to them. You are encouraged to do that. I know it's very difficult with the time that we had during the clinical time, but if you had the interest, that is that possibility. We are also interested to do the quality improvement. So this is something that we're starting to do, and we're gonna provide a formal training in quality improvement. By the end of your residency, the idea is that every resident has to lead one project on quality improvement. This is gonna it's part of the scholar activity, and it's gonna help the resident, it's gonna help the patients. So we think overall, this is gonna help the program. On top of all of these, you can work on case report, posters, meetings, and the program offers the support for all of this. We had a call system made over the 3 sites. So we had a short call system, meaning that during the day activity, the day team works from 7 in the morning to 4:30 p.m. depending on the site. Then one resident is going to be taking care of the patients, consults, and sometimes inpatients during the short call time. This short call time varies by site, but it can go from 4 to 7 or 4 to 9 p.m. And there is a night float system in all the hospitals. This goes from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning or to 9 p.m. to 7 in the morning. There is one site that doesn't have a 24-hour call, is Kings County. And the only reason because of that, because it's a very busy hospital. So at this moment, this hospital doesn't have the 24 hours, so it has a night float system for the weekdays and the weekends. The other 2 sites, Maimonides and Downstate, they had a 24-hour calls, but we think if we had this feedback is something that's doable for the resident. It's not as intense, so it's possible. And as Dr. Perk was mentioning, our residents go to top positions in different hospitals, in different fellowships. So one of them is oncology. This is basically my year. Oncology MSK, neurophysiology at Cornell, headache at Mount Sinai, Jefferson, stroke in UPenn, stroke in Mount Sinai, neurocritical care at Rochester, Duke, Yale, and also Yale, epilepsy at North Shore. But as you can see, in different years, there are different residents that went to Harvard, Columbia, University of Washington, Duke, Emory, and it's important to mention that the residents are very well placed. So as Dr. Berg were mentioning this, we had our 3 sites. This is just a map to mention where they're located. So SUNY Downstate is at the heart of Brooklyn. And here, Kings County is basically crossing the street. So the 2 sites are located here, Kings County and SUNY Downstate. Maimonides is a little bit more in a different location. I just wanted to mention this, you can see in the map, the scenes that will be close by, that around 30 minutes if you are driving. If you want to take subway, you have to do a long trip. If you are on a bike, can take 20, 30 minutes. It depends the way that you want to transport. But it's important to mention here is every hospital is actually serving a different population. So SUNY Downstate is at the heart of the Brooklyn. This is Afro-Caribbean population. Kings County is located also in this location. So you see specific diseases for that are served for this population. Maimonides Medical Center serves a different population, includes Sunset Park, Borough Park. So you basically can attend Chinese population, Spanish population, and also there's a Jewish Orthodox population. There's some population in the south of Brooklyn that is mainly Russian, but they mainly go to Maimonides. So combining these 2 locations, we have different variety of diseases and presentations of disease. This is very important for us for training because we can see different conditions that it's very difficult that one hospital is going to offer and another program is going to offer. And very important, there's going to be a lot of languages. You will be exposed to many languages. We have the translation services, but you will have some flavor how to do neurological exam with different languages. Kings County Hospital is basically the hospital that we work very intense. So it's a very like big hospital. Overall has like 627 beds. It's a very busy emergency department, and also like very busy like in terms of like outpatient services. It's one of the largest hospital in the city, only behind Bellevue in this Manhattan. But because it's a public hospital owned by the city, belongs to a network of hospitals. So we can easily like refer patients to Bellevue, most of the cases, but we can receive patients from other locations. So in that way, we can have like different flavors of patients. It's a first level trauma center. It's a top emergency department residency. And also it's a comprehensive stroke center. We are working also to have the Neurology working 24/7, and we had an active neurosurgery service. And very important, we had a closed neuro ICU. As just something of interest, there is like a TV show that I don't know which network it's aired, but it's called New Amsterdam that's been filmed in Kings County. Maimonides Medical Center is our other big hospital. It's 700 beds and very busy as well, having like around 120,000 visits per year in the ED. This hospital is also very well known for his cardiology services. Our like neurology service over there includes like stroke service and general neurology. It has been rated as one of the top 1% of the in the US for stroke survival, and offers also neuro-IR, neurosurgery, neuro ICU. This is very important just to mention. It's like a top hospital for cardiology. And also I wanted to mention that this hospital last year just starting to use a new building that is for outpatient services. And we are like, at this moment, our PGY2s are rotating through this new building and they love it. Then we had the University Hospital Brooklyn. Here, I'm just trying to just show in this picture that is actually a big complex. So this building I'm just mentioning here is actually the educational building. On the right, you're gonna see the University Hospital Brooklyn. And behind here, you're gonna see the research building. So it's actually, you can see, you can have an idea what you can find on a downstage. You can see the education, research, and also the clinical aspect. The hospital itself is smaller than Kings County Maimonides. It's about half the size. And also the number of visits of in the ED. Here in the education, we had training for medical school, nursing, physician assistant, physical therapy. In the hospital itself, we had a transplant center, we had a dedicated epilepsy unit. In the research part, we had like different departments. So we had a pathology, we have pharmacology and physiology, but basically it's function like a neuroscience unit. We have one Nobel Prize from SUNY Downstate. It's Robert Foucault. He won the Nobel Prize for the discovered the nitric oxide and the function on the realization in the vessels. We had another like important discovery here is the development of the MRI. And also had to mention this, that we had a new building that's called the Public Health Building as the newest building at Downstate. So in terms of education, Dr. Burke mentions more or less this structure. We have non-lectures, we had grand rounds, we had morning reports, we had MAMs, we had simulation centers. And I just had to mention this. We also like this year trying to include these simulated environments for the residents, so we can learn how to interact with other residents in difficult situations or with medical students. If we had the feedback from our attendings. And on the left, you can see Dr. Jacobi, on the right, you can see Dr. Balsamis. It's a very familiar environment to learn how to approach difficult situations with residents and students. And that's going to be something that's going to help you in the future. And we had the other two places that we can do rotation. Dr. Peck mentions already. So the Memorial Sloan Kettering for neuro-oncology and Mount Sinai in the city for the neuro ICU. Our program is very diverse. Just not talking about race. I think we have, I think, as a fortune to have residents of different backgrounds, and something you can learn from all of them. And also the population that we actually are helping is very diverse by race and all the colors of spectrum, just to mention that. Our residents and attendants, they come from basically all over the world, and that had like opened you to different cultures as well, different languages. Our like common language is English, of course, but the idea is that we had like sometimes like parts that we can like learn from all of them. Our patients, I was mentioning before, are coming from the Caribbean, Chinese, Hispanic, South Asian, Russian, and more. And also because we are in the middle of Brooklyn, sometimes we had very specific cases. So over here, it has been described as flatbush diabetes. There's a high concentration of NMO. There's also specific conditions seen here. It's a complication of HTLV infection that is seen in the Caribbean population. And also because this sometimes we have the tourism, we can see cases of neurocytosis or neurotuberculosis. And our program is growing. So we have increased on the number of residents. We went from 7 per year to 11 per year. We had a site that was recently added. We had new faculty, and actually our residents are growing as well. I mentioned this. We had also the pediatric neurology residency that is affiliated to one. So we have that rotation, and that we can go and see the pediatric neurology. It's also a downstate in Kings County Hospital. And we offer coverage to the residents. So I know we know that everyone has like sometimes or emergency cases, and we're trying to provide coverage for this. So we understand this. Some pictures of like our families. Like I think this time during the residency is very difficult, but at the same time, you can see the transition for many of us. We're starting to have like, new babies. We're starting to get married. So we're like all growing. As a professionals, but also as a person, like seeing like all these families and all of us learning together.
Sergio, which are your kids there?
Oh, actually, it should be one of the babies. I think this one. I just recognize her because of the hat.
All babies look the same.
And here, just like this is the times of pre-COVID, that was easier to have like a meeting like this. But hopefully in the future, there's no more COVID, we can have like a big meeting again like this. But this is a time where we can have like different attendings and residents join us together to just have like a fun time. And also we are like having expansion, more faculty joining us. In the last attending is going to be joining us, and during this year is going to be multiple sclerosis. As I mentioned before, we had a wellness committee. The wellness committee is trying to provide for the well-being of the residents and follow the institutional departmental guidelines. We had call rooms, coffee machines. We had a ping pong table that was one of the acquisition from last year. And we're trying to do as much as possible, depending on the COVID conditions, happy hours, yoga classes. And the ideas are like, this provide like a family-like atmosphere that you feel included, that you feel support, and all of us are on this together. And this is just like a very like short view of what you can do in New York City. It's like New York City is a place that many people live, but provides also many activities outside, and depends on what you want, what you prefer to do. You can, the city offers all of this. So you can go to parks, and you can go to museums, you can just wander around the city, and you're gonna discover something new anytime. And this is basically just us. And I think like very important that mention that we just don't work and that's it. We trying to spend time together and hang out and have a happy life. And that's the most important. And just you can also like see us on the social network. You can follow us in the Instagram, Twitter. We even had Facebook. And if you Google, you can look at us on YouTube, Downstar Neurology. We had like material that we offer for education, including grounds, Dr. Peck lectures. So you can see all of that. So this is more or less the presentation.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Just one thing to emphasize about the call. So just to make sure you understand, it's not like Kings County doesn't have 24-hour calls and all the other places do. It's just a weekend. So the rest is night float. And actually, this is based on a decision of the residents. I actually prefer 24-hour calls. By the way, this is how I train, and I think it's actually better for the patients. It's very tiring, but it provides continuity of care. But because you guys are in the trenches, this is something that I asked the residents to vote. What do you prefer, night float system or 24 hours? And the residents preferred night float. Now you may ask, so why are we doing the 24-hour on the weekend? The only reason is to have less people be involved in the weekend. So if one person does 24, if you don't do 24 hours, that means that you burn that weekend for two people. So if one person does 24 hours, it allows more people off. But we came to the conclusion that at Kings County, the 24-hour call was too heavy duty. So we stopped that. But in the other locations, it's much easier. Residents get to even sleep a lot of time. So we keep it at that. So we harm less weekends of the residents. But just so you understand, it's we do have a night float system rather than 24 hours. All right, so I know you heard a lot. We threw a lot of information on you. I'm sure it's very hard to digest everything. And I know that when I was in your shoes visiting all these places, I couldn't remember who said what and where. But a lot of the information is in our site. And also you're more than welcome to approach us with emails. The emails here in Downstate are very simple. It's the first and last name divided by a period at downstate.edu. So for example, my email is jonathan.perk@downstate.edu. So feel free to email with questions and we'll try to answer. All right, so let's open the mic for you guys. I'll try to answer the best I can questions, and then I will log off. I see that we have several residents that join us. Hazel and Ahat and Sergio are still here. I don't know if I didn't see if there are other residents as well. Maybe they're hiding there. So we'll be able to ask questions when I'm logging off. So you can ask whatever you want. I mean, you can ask whatever you want when I'm here, but just so you feel more comfortable. All right, without further ado.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, so Dr. Berg, thank you for hosting us today. I have a question regarding the visa. You said that only J1 visa allowed. So does that mean that J2 visa are not allowed?
Oh, no, it's not that it's not allowed. It's that is what the institution will help support. Mainly, it's not, I have to look into J2, but specifically, they don't want to pay for the H visas, which
yeah, okay. So you mean that H1B is not allowed, is not like.
It's not that it's not allowed, it's,
I got it.
it's
Dr. Burke?
Downstate doesn't commit to pay for the H visa. How do you
Yeah,
know more about the J2 visa?
Yeah, J2 visa is actually supported for spouses. For example, my wife gets the J2 automatically once I get the J1.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
It's mainly the H visa that Downstate,
Yeah.
we're cheap here in Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Perk, and thank you so much, Dr. Perk and Dr. Angelo, for your presentation. It was really wonderful. So during your open house, you mentioned a new combined neurointerventional fellowship. So I just wanted to know if what kind of exposure would residents get in interventional neurology?
So the fellowship that we have is a vascular fellowship. We don't yet have an interventional fellowship. You are probably reading our mind in terms of the future, but I don't want to say anything more because I don't want anybody to misunderstand that I'm promising anything. We're definitely looking into it. I'll just put it in that way. But right now, we're offering an ACGME accredited vascular, meaning a stroke, basically a stroke fellowship. So the way it works is people after stroke fellowship, they can go ahead and find a place to do intervention. We don't yet offer that here. If you're interested in though in exposure, there's ample opportunity for exposure. Several of our residents did an elective, a whole month with the interventionalist here at Maimonides, which I think someone asked if it's a comprehensive center. It is, which basically means that it offers all these different various care opportunities for stroke. So we did have, residents that were interested, so they joined our interventionalist, and they, spend a whole month in Maimonides catheterizing people. If that is your cup of tea, not mine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perk. Really good to know that kind of exposure exists. Thank you.
With me, you'll be able to do EMGs. Do that. See neuromuscular. That's not a procedure, but procedure-wise, with me, it's EMGs. There are other procedures that our faculty do, Botox injections for dystonia, headaches, those are things. If you're interested in that, we have people who do that. Jakob and Ziska does that.
Thank you so much.
What else you guys want to know about us? Something in the chat here.
Yeah, there's a question about QI projects.
QI. Sergio, you want to tackle that one? You're the world expert in QI now.
Yes, so basically we're starting this new curriculum in QI. So samples about this as simple as how to prove the times for patients to get to the CT at downstate. So we're trying to do a project. So we're trying to do, for example, timing of how much time takes as soon as the patient arrives to the time that the patient gets to the table on the CT. And we're trying to see what are the limitations for the patients to get as soon as possible to the CT table. And we measure this over time, and we compare if we're making some changes that improve the time. So that's one of the examples. Another example is Dr. Jacoby and other residents and trying to work about the understanding about like more difficult neurological conditions. So they're working on a survey and trying to provide education for that. And let me see what else. I think I had a whole presentation here, but that's more or less some ideas. At the moment, we're trying to do around like 15 to 20 projects. The idea is that you are going to be supported by one attending that can guide you over the process. It's not like you have to do everything by yourself. It's going to be one attending that's going to be guiding you through the process of the quality improvement. And the idea is the whole project is trying to improve the patients, basically the service supplies to the patients.
I'd like to just mention in the quality improvement, so actually all our noon conferences are divided into teaching blocks. We are going to start actually, so we actually had for several years a research block where we give some talks about research. We talk about different aspects of how to approach research, including how to write a case report, how to do an IRB, kind of things that residents find kind of a black box. How do you enter research? To that block, we're going to add lectures on quality improvement. So those are led by Dr. Susan Law and Dr. Susanna Acola. So that's a new thing that we're going to do. And actually, a lot of our activities, we're starting to use quality improvement language. So for example, the M&M meetings that we have where residents present morbidity and mortality meetings, you probably know. So for example, if there was a bad outcome, we want to analyze it. So it's presented by a resident in a quality improvement presentation. Those of you that know that, the fish bones and how do we find out how to improve ourselves. And actually, remember I told you that each resident is required to do scholarly work. So what happens if you did the traditional type of scholarly work? Well, let's say you did I don't know if you're like Sergio, you recorded, what was it, hippocampal electrical activity in mice, more or less. And you didn't do a scholarly, quality improvement. So how are you still going to be exposed? So what we require is that if you did do the traditional type of scholarly work, you still be required to do a M&M presentation with quality improvement language. So then you still will have to know how to do it. So we will teach you you'll be taught in the teaching blocks. You won't have to do a project, just like Sergio mentioned, the CT, stroke to CT time. But you will have to do a presentation guided with an attending using quality improvement language. So there's no escape from quality improvement. By the way, as attendings, there's no escape either. We also have to do, as part of MOC. MOC is the continued certification. We have to do quality improvement projects. It's called PIP and so forth. So it doesn't end in residency. It will end when you retire. By the way, Sergio send me an Excel sheet with it's not like we have only one project with the CT. There's a list. I don't know if you have it there. You can share it, but there's like over a dozen projects running right now.
I can show you. Let me see what is this. Okay, can you see my screen?
You can see
here. So these are different projects that we have. So hypertension, how to prove the hypertension in patients with a stroke. We had a new one about how to do a protocol for the insertion of the NG tube. We had about this something that's more institutional, about non-fatal strangulation in patients. We had one regarding how to improve our curriculum about quality improvement. There were neurological disease educations. One about the mentions about the time study for stroke. But yes, there's many.
All right, so we can minimize this and go back to show everybody.
Yeah.
And you bring your own ideas, and we'll find someone to guide you. Yeah, there's one project that we need to do is to improve the waiting time in the Kings County Clinic. minimize it. That's an example. No one is doing it, but that's something that I need someone to do.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Yeah, no, for these guys.
Yeah.
All right, what else do you guys want to know? All right, so either I shocked you, we shocked you, or we went over everything. Again, feel free to reach us with emails and ask questions. Visa stuff, as you see, I'm not that of an expert, but I will find who knows to answer those questions that you have. I will log off now and I will leave you with our residents so you can, if you wish, talk about with them and maybe just hear from them about their own experience. All right, so thanks again, everybody, for coming, and we'll see you in the interviews. All the best to you guys, whatever you decide to do in your careers.
Thank you, Dr. Burke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Park.
Good luck.
Okay, everyone. So we had so far the 3 residents here. So we had Ahad, we had Shehan, and we had Hazel. So we had a PGY 3s and 4s at this moment. So you are free to ask all the questions.
Hi, I had a question about the didactics. Could you comment a little bit on the didactics and whether you all like them? Would you like them to be improved a little bit?
Sure. So didactics and mainly the noon time is a Zoom conference. So that's because we have, 2 reasons, COVID, and also because we're spread out in 3 sites. So it's easier to do Zoom lectures. There is some blocks for didactics. It can be stroke, neuromuscular. It goes like every 2 months, and the idea is trying to be comprehensive over there and provide like just the bread and butter for the neurology, basically. That's the main didactics or the noon time. Then we have the morning report that actually is the cases that overnight. So we had 2 morning reports. One that includes down UHB and Maimonides, and the other one run at my Kings County. So every morning report the study is different for the 2 sites. Well, for 3 sites, the 2 morning reports mainly. So one study is basically just one case report. We go very on like details, differentials about one interesting case. The other one is kind of like if you have like 5 patients overnight, you're gonna present those 5 patients depending on the time. So it's quicker. And it's different approach and you learn a different way, but the idea is like all the residents, if you're presenting, you learn how to present and approach this patient. If you are present during the discussion, is to make some comments about it. And the other ways that we can do didactics is going to be MAMs that is trying to turn more in a way to improve the program. For example, mistakes are done. Like we have like cases where something happened and it's unfortunate, but the most important is how we can learn from those cases. And we had like a very successful like goal from the MMN reports to actually do a quality improvement project. And the last part is going to be ground rounds. Ground rounds is once a week. It's about like 30 something ground rounds over the year. And we invite people from outside the institution. Sometimes we had like speakers from our institution. But the idea is trying to have like very important topics, very well-known presenters and go over this presentation. So that's basically the didactics time that is offered by institution.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Hi, I have a question about the where do residents usually live? In which area, New York, Brooklyn? And the second question linked to it, do you usually use public transportation or cars? So do residents have cars? Thank you.
Let me see if one of the residents went to, I can show them up and one of the residents can speak about it.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So I'm Jaehyun Park. I'm one of PGY4. So I live in an area called Midwood. I think Murray lives in that neighborhood too. I think it's, at least where I live, it's more Jewish, Russian community. I commute by either public transportation, which would be like train to bus, or even in this freezing weather, I biked. So biking is also available if you want to. I mean, other people live in diverse places. Some live in Manhattan, some live in Queens, some live in like Brooklyn, Prospect Park. Park Slope, downtown area, Bay Ridge. So everybody chooses their area to live according to, you know, their situation. I chose my place because it's affordable, although it's a little more southward. So it's not, it takes about 25 minutes to like 40 minutes, depending on the traffic and the situation, to commute. But I think it's gonna be similar. And I think I also know a lot of people live around the hospital, which is now, there's a lot of developments, very, very good condos to live in. So it's up to you. If you just want a very short commute and like you want to sleep more, like around the hospital is fine. If you want more like life, enjoy your life, downtown, Park Slope, those kind of area, or Manhattan would be preferable. But the more you can do, obviously the price is going to go up. So it's up to you.
Thank you for the answer.
Someone raised their hand?
And how is the work-life balance of the program?
Well, we're front loaded. So unfortunately, during your PGY 2-3 years, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little tough. But PGY 4, it's very nice. So there's some perks to look forward to. But yeah, you're gonna have sleepless nights, a lot of fatigue, especially during your PGY 2. I personally find that the transition from intern year to PGY 2 is a little steep, but you get used to it. Unfortunately, again, it's front loaded. So yeah, you do all these night floats in the front, but PGY 4, it's like half of the years are like elective, psych, peds. So it's pretty chill.
And is the program supportive when it comes to illness or schedule changes, etc.?
So even now with the COVID situation, a lot of our colleagues are, you know, a little unfortunately sick. Well, fortunately, they're not too sick, but they do take off days. So there's a lot of coverage available. So even myself is like a sort of a backup person now. So there's a lot of backup people in case you have any kind of illnesses, whatever situation. So you can call out sick, whatever it is. So, I mean, honestly, when I was PGY 1-2, it wasn't sufficient manpower to like, you know, back me up. So I was always stressed that I have to come to work when I'm sick, even if I'm sick. But now, like, I don't think there's any pressure to that. And a lot of people are actually calling out sick, and there's a lot of backup coverage. So yeah, I think in that sense, it's very supportive. Yeah, with everything going on, I think it's very understandable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Angelo, for the great presentation and giving us like a great overlook of the program. I just have a question regarding the boards. I've heard very good feedback regarding high board pass rates. What are the resources the residents are given to study for the boards?
At this moment, the program doesn't offer like tools in specific for the boards. I think like mainly everything's gonna be through the didactics. But yeah, like at the moment of taking the boards, everything. I mean, you can had some money, for example, educational money that you can use for this purpose. But the program is not offering like a tool for it. But if you want, like for example, at Maimonides, they give you like $700 per year that you can use. You want to buy like one of these like Q banks, you are free to use it. But that's something that you can do.
So actually, the way I know it is that the residency program would pay for the Q banks at the end of our training. So when we're like around the time of graduation or even after graduation, I think the program pays for the Q banks that get you ready for the board. So that's good. As Sergio said, depending on where your pay source is, there's some additional kind of support to buy things educationally. And the website, there's actually some links to the Q banks for the boards that like you can kind of study for free. And there's lots of books available online in the library as well. Yeah, and the program has supports you with the AAN membership, which has access to Continuum, and Continuum is like, they provide you with some questions, which is very helpful, especially for your write exam as well, which is the in-service exam for neurology. And when you're turning PGY2, they give you Blumenfeld for free. That was the case for me, which is a very good neuroanatomy book to study, as well as they give you this peripheral nerve book, which is thin but very practical as well. So those are all supported by the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
no, you can go ahead if you want.
Yeah, I just want to know, since you're rotating at so many sites, and are all the sites welcoming, because you have to work with a lot of residents from different programs. So just wanted to understand what the relationship between the residents was like.
Yeah, Hat, can you reply the question?
Sure. Well, we mainly rotate in Kings County and downstate. And sometimes we rotate in Maimonides. So we know well Kings County, other residents. But for example, when we go to different sites, let's say Maimonides, where we see other residents who work there in Maimonides, usually the communication and relationships are very good, constructive, and to the point, and they know us. They have been knowing that we're giving the service to them. We're helping out to them. So we didn't have any issues. And when there is any issue, you can always raise it up to the chiefs, or if there is any problem. But usually it was smooth. By the way, I'm a hot third-year resident.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahad.
No problem.
Yeah, so I had a question. I wanted to ask if you have like an overview for the curriculum, for example, for the second year and third year. How does it go? Like how many months do you do in stroke, for example?
Sure. Let me try to share something with you. So second year is a very busy year. I'm gonna show more or less the structure for one of the residents. 1 second. So the month, for example, for the tools, it's going to be full of electric time clinics. In some of them are going to be working inpatient work and the general service or in Kings County, or they're going to be at Maimonides, and either the stroke or the general service that happens in the Kings County. Throughout you move more over throughout the year, just trying to have starting like October, starting to have like night float system. So the idea is that these like 2-3 months that you had initially during the second year, you are gonna have a little bit more like free time because you are not gonna have night float. And then you have more experience with the neurological patients. And then once you start doing the night float, it's going to be a little bit more tough scheduled, to just say in general that there's not that much lefty time, but you're going to be mainly rotating through the around 5 inpatient services plus the daytime, nighttime, and you're going to have some time to do the MSK rotation. That's going to be 1 month over. And that's basically what's going to be for the rest of the second year. I cannot tell you for like a total how many like months you are going to be on each service, but it's going to be most of the time. I don't know. So I don't have the exact number. Yeah, let me see.
So yeah, if I have to add, so my personal thought is when you're PGY2, you usually rotate at Kings County and Maimonides and less so at UHB. As Sergio mentioned, at the start of the second year, you don't start like 24-hour calls, weekend calls immediately. You have like a month period where you kind of get used to things, and then you start the calls. And then even after like a month more, then you start night float. So they're graded kind of transition into responsibility, which is good. When you're PGY3, I think you rotate more so at Maimonides and may have some duties in UHB and less so at Kings County. And fourth year, your responsibilities are, I think, mostly at Kings County. And all the hospital has stroke and general services. So yeah, it's kind of all year. It's half stroke, half general.
Got it. Thank you.
Could you just elaborate on the call and night float schedule and how much there is?
So are you here?
So I can go over again. So the call is considered after 4:30 to 9 at Kings County, or 4 to 7 at Maimonides and downstate. And this is called a short call. And you would have, for example, a couple, 1 or twice of them in a week when you're working inpatient at that hospital. And maybe you might have 1 weekend call, which goes from 7 to, again, until the short call time, 7 to 7 at Maimonides and UHB, and 7 to 9 p.m. at Kings County. You would have either 1 weekend call or no calls. Then you would have a golden weekend, meaning that both of days are off while you're working at inpatient at that service. For example, if you're working at Kings County General Neurology service, then you would maybe have 1 or 2 short calls, and you would maybe have 1 or 0 weekend call. And if you're on night float, then you're a dedicated night float resident. So you would be only working nights for 5 days in a week, which the night float also goes from where the short call person leaves out, and then it goes until the morning. So for example, we have 1 night float person resident covering the Kings County Hospital from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And at UHB and Maimonides, we have 7 to 7 night float resident. And if you're doing night float, then you wouldn't have, daytime work. And Dr. Perk was mentioning in some hospitals, the UHB and Maimonides, we do sometimes have 24-hour calls, which total in a year, I think you would have maybe 5 to 10 of them if you have to calculate all of them together. For example, that would be from Friday morning to Saturday morning or from Saturday morning to the Sunday morning. If you're working at Maimonides or UHB, you wouldn't have 24-hour call at Kings County Hospital. But again, the 24-hour calls are actually, they're very exhausting, but they're actually very few if you have to actually count them, how many of them you're gonna make. All of these are for PGY2 and PGY3, of course.
Yeah, when you're PGY4, you have like 5 to 6 weekends calls that you're on the weekend all the time, but other than that, you're off always on the weekend, so it's good. And the holidays.
There was a question about the relationship about you and other residents. How can you describe the relationships between you and ancillary staff, between you and nurses and UHB, Maimonides, Kings County Hospital?
So this is actually very similar to when we interact with the emergency residents and or internal medicine residents, which we get most of our consults from. So we interact with the emergency residents and internal medicine residents the most. So we've been working for many years, then we get to know each other. This is the same for the nurse. We're working on the same floors all the time. So the nurses there, you would be accustomed to them working over years together. And you know, this is for any kind of social relationship. If you maintain a respect for each other, there's no issues. The nurses also have you know, they also have charge nurse in terms of their supervision. So since they're not rotating or changing too much, you would get to know and see the same nurses and over working in the same floor. So you would have a nice relationship with them. I would consider myself to have a smooth relationship with them, with our floor nurses.
Thank you.
Yeah, just remember you can ask any questions. Is kind of like non-judgmental environment.
Yeah, I had a question about the different sites. How's the ease in switching from one site to the other? For example, do they all use the same EMR, or is everything different and you have to kind of learn a new system every time you go to a different site?
Oh, all EMRs are different. So there are 3 EMRs, basically 2 EMRs from downstate and Maimonides, they are similar. The main core of the EMRs is similar. Just a little bit of changes over here and there, but Kings County is on Epic, which is more advanced. So each time when you rotate, you may like feel like you need to a little bit adapt to the new AMR, new place. But the good part is you may get bored in the same place, in the same hospital. When you change to a new hospital, new place, and new rules, something is good there, something is different there. You know, you get the flavor of you have the opportunity of getting experience using different EMRs, different cultures in different hospitals, and different people, different communities, different patients. So that's what you're gonna get here.
Hazel is our IT chief. She can take care of all your IT issues. She's very good at it, and she's very supportive. Like yeah, she makes your life much easier.
Yes, you guys, any EMR related questions can go to me at 24 hours, 7 days. But the two of the EMRs are actually very similar to each other. The one at the Maimonides and the one at SUNY Downstate are just different. The same main system, just small differences. And since you're gonna be continuously rotating every 2 weeks on different 3 hospitals, then you get to be very comfortable in each of them because you rotate on each of them very frequently. So that's not an issue.
I just want to add that we're very supportive. Like sometimes we are just asking about how to place one order, like specific order, like a weird antibody, and we just like had a chat and we just like reply quickly. So if you don't know how to do some things, there is always someone available to just give you an answer.
Yeah, and in regards to rotating hospital, I guess you guys are all aware, but I don't know if it's the same for the other program. We go to MSK and Mount Sinai. So, and we already have like 3 rotating hospital. That's so 5 rotating hospital at baseline, and you may do elective at the other facility depending on like if you can. So I think you get a very broad exposure of all the New York system, and they also use different EMRs at MSK. Well, I mean, Mount Sinai uses Epic, but it's a little different version. So you get ample exposure, and I don't think like adjusting to the system, like particular system, is that difficult. But you get good exposure to all the New York systems.
Just for the last question on the chat regarding the languages at Kings County. So just to mention that there is like a population here, it's like from Haiti, and they speak Haitian Creole. It's not gonna say like 90%, but you're gonna see like about like 10 to 20% that are only Haitian Creole speaking patients. I don't speak Haitian Creole. There are actually like few of the residents that speak Haitian Creole, but sometimes the ancillary stuff like nurses or like technician, they can speak Haitian Creole, but you have the one in translational services, so you can use all of these. Maimonides, that's going to be the one that's actually very challenging for the language part, because you can have only one Chinese, I know, Cantonese speaking, even like some weird dialects from China can be found at Maimonides. You can find also Russian speaking patients over there, and probably like some Spanish speaking patients. I think I'm gonna say over general, we don't have that many like Spanish speaking population. That's something that's not normal on other hospitals.
I have a question. So the short call usually starts at around 4 or 5. Does that mean the morning team, do they leave at the short call, or do they usually stay till the night float?
Usually the day team just leave about 4 to 4:30 p.m. And then the short call person, depending on the site, they take care only of the consults, or they take care of the consults plus the inpatient. So the short call, I think overall is very challenging. It can be very like a smooth short call, or you can have like many consults. But in order to protect the short call, we had a cap system. So meaning that you cannot go over like more than 3 patients during the short call time, because the idea is that like you're gonna see like this number of patients in 3 hours. That's actually like, let's say for 4 to 7, that's 3 hours, and seeing 3 patients during this time is quite difficult because you have to do things quickly. So we want to protect you, and you can go home as soon as possible. You finish your short call. They are very like rare occasions that like somehow the service is like exploding, and you are gonna have like 5 consoles, like 3 stroke codes at the same moment. So we had sometimes these special occasions can happen at Kings County. So if this is happening, we have a person at downstate that's actually doing short call, and we can sometimes just send this person over Kings County to help with the consoles. But the idea is trying to, with like everyone trying to protect this and not to send you like admin died at home. It happens, but we want to protect you about it.
Okay, so that means you actually have one team for the consults and the inpatient, or is it like 2 different teams?
So basically, for example, if you are at Maimonides, there is a person dedicated for the inpatient, and there's going to be another person doing consults. If you are at Kings County and if you are at downstate, there's going to be only one person covering consults plus the inpatient.
Got it. Thank you.
Just on the topic of call, is it Q3 or Q4? Because I just wasn't sure about that.
It's a slightly different. So we say that short call system that you can have about 2 to 3 times of the week that you can be on short call. That's going to be the maximum. And you might have a weekend day that you have to stay from 7 to 7 or 7 to 9. The idea is that you are not going to go over 80 hours on service. That rarely happens. That I think the max that I did at some point was 70 hours. But if we talk about like Q2, Q3, we had a different system because it's going to be one person doing night float from let's say 9 p.m. to 7 in the morning. It's going to start on Sunday night and it's going to finish on Thursday night. So that person is going to be night float during that week. And then there's going to be a person for the weekend. Kings County and downstate Maimonides, there's going to be one person 24 hours on Friday and one person 24 hours on Saturday. And then the cycle starts again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had space for one more questions. Otherwise, we can be wrapping up this. Okay, everyone. So let's keep it like this, but just remember that you can just ask questions during the interview. It's going to be during the interview time. You're going to have obviously the different like interviewers, but one of the chief residents is going to be present all the time during the if you're not doing the interview. You can ask questions that it happens in between. You can also like send us an email. My email is going to be sergio.angulo@downstate.edu. And just feel free to ask questions. I know this is a very difficult, challenging time. I know all of uncertainty where to go. So I wish you all of you all the best. And I'm very sure that we're going to be colleagues at some point. We're going to work together anywhere in the US, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.